Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody, wherever you are in the world. I appreciate you joining the stream. It has been way too long since I've been able to do this. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I do appreciate you all being here. And we are going to be showcasing my first three matches in the Old School Magic Winter Derby. So welcome, everybody. Old School Guard, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in, and we'll talk about Old School Guard here in just a moment when I show you today's deck. So, here we go. This is the deck that I ran in the Old School Magic Winter Derby. Esper Shops. Yes, I know that Esper is more of a term for contemporary Magic, but it is definitely something that fits. Esper, it means black, blue, and white. So I'm playing a workshop deck that plays black, blue, and white, and a bunch of artifacts. Now, cool thing in the upper right hand corner of the screen, you will see that I have a basic plains and a basic island. That basic island is a part of a matched pair. Old School Guard 9394 was gracious enough to have them commissioned by Dustin Brossard. And he has a matching island that is just the reverse image of this one. It is pretty cool, and I am so thrilled to have it in my deck and to have friends from the stream who appreciate things enough to send me the cool things like that. So thank you very much. I definitely appreciate that. So shops. 4 copies of Mishra's Workshop. We've got 4 Tundras, 4 Underground Seas, 4 copies of Mishra's Factory, 1 City of Brass, 1 copy of course, the ever popular Library of Alexandria, 1 Plains, 1 Island, a Lotus, Black Lotus, pretty good card I heard. Only playing 3 Strip Mines. 1 Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, a Time Twister, a Recall, a Mana Drain, 2 Copy Artifacts, 1 Transmute Artifact, 3 pretty cool Artist Proofs of Disenchant, 1 pretty cool Artist Proof of Divine Offering, 1 Balance, 1 Demonic Tutor, 1 Abyss, 2 copies of Icy Manipulator, 1 GM Tome, and then we've got 1 Relic Barrier, 1 City in a Bottle, 1 copy of Fellwar Stone. That's a pretty sweet Artist Proof that I have right there too. All of the jewelry, Soul Ring, Chaos Orb, Tetraphis, 3 copies of Suchi, 4 Triskelions, and 1 copy, of course, of our everyone's favorite Tanos' Coffin. So here we go. Now, these are pre-recorded matches. I've already played them, and just so everybody is aware, I made a boo-boo. I didn't actually record sound when I recorded these matches, so you wouldn't be able to hear me talking on them. So I'm just going to provide some commentary. And we're going to see how things go. Now, you see the little graphic there on the right hand side with my life total. It's zoomed in. I used that graphic and actually broadcast that to my opponent while we were playing our matches. So you'll see that it is actually just a blow up of the graphic that you actually see on my side of the table. And that graphic, when it stretched out, it kind of like pixelated it a bit. But I just think it'd be a little bit easier to see by having it there in the corner. Now, my first opponent is Brian. Brian is been an Old School Magic player for quite some time, and he right now has a tendency to play a certain style of deck, a certain type of deck. So when I scheduled this match, I actually had an inkling as to what Brian was going to be running, and little did I know was that Brian actually posted about his deck in a group on Facebook where he and I are both members of, which I didn't actually see until after our match was done, like a day or two later. So I just think it was kind of funny. Yeah, so we are shuffling up. We're going to roll the die to see who goes first. I don't recall who went first. You see that it is an odd die roll at number 3. And those were my Garbage Pail Kid sleeves that I got at one of my local game stores. So, and then we're talking about who's going first and how we're splitting our decks, and it looks like we are on our way. So let's see how we do here. 7 cards. Yeah, I really like those garbage pail sleeves. The unfortunate thing is that they weren't very durable. So after batch 1, I did have to sub them out. So when I do broadcast my batch 2 matches, you're going to see that I'm going to be using different sleeves. Caffeinated said, even Rich plays shops now. It was great when we were friends. Says the man who plays Burn. All right, so it looks like Brian kept, and I'm taking a mulligan here, which is pretty typical when it comes to shop stacks. A lot of times you want to take some aggressive mulligans so that you can get something threatening on the table, either one of the creatures or something like an Icy Manipulator or even a Jame Day Tome, like really, really early, so that it puts some pressure on your opponent. Another thing too is if you play some artifacts as bait, then the opponent is not going to have the resources to deal with all of your threats. So, and because of the fact that I know what, or have an inkling as to what Brian is running, it turned out that I was right. There are things that are definitely a little bit more potent in this matchup that wouldn't necessarily be great in other matchups, but they would still be good. So I mulligan to 6, it looks like. I'm going to put one back, and it looks like we are on our way. Okay, so we got a scrubland and an emerald. Okay, so not much action coming out from Brian's side, but means that he has mana to play things like disenchant. So you see I take a point of burn by playing a shop into a chaos orb. And let's see what Brian has in store for us. Looks like he's in the tank a little bit. Alright, he plays another Mox. Alright, and then he says go. So he doesn't have another land drop, which could be important. Alright, so that's another shop. So this is a pretty ridiculous draw for me. And I play a Trike on turn 2. Alright, so he's going to swords my Triskelion. So what I do is, in response, I deal 2 to him, and then I have the Trike do 1 damage to itself by removing that last counter. So it goes into my graveyard as opposed to being exiled. So that is a recurring theme you will definitely see a bit, but you'll see that it kind of bites me in the butt right here, because now that it's in the graveyard, he gets to cast Animate Dead. So as you can tell, Brian is on a Reanimator build. Okay, so we get a Tundra here. Ancestral Recall. Last time I heard that was a good card. 1 mana, draw 3 cards. Seems cool. And Trike number 2. And the good thing is my Trike is a 4/4. It's a 1/1 with 3+1/+1 counters, where his also has 3+1/+1 counters, but the Animate Dead gives it -1/-0. So his is actually a 3/4. So they wouldn't trade in combat. His would die and mine would survive. Alright, Library of Alexandria from his side. Not the only Arabian Nights card in his deck, and he has Bazaars in his deck. So me having a main deck Bottle, while it might not come into play in this game, I don't recall. Bottle could come into play when it comes to playing this match. I think he's in the tank here. Not sure what he's deciding on here. Like I said, I don't have the audio, so I don't know what our conversations are about. So, all right. So he just says go. And I untap. Strip mine. Getting rid of the white source. Not sure how many cards he has in his hand, but I don't believe that it's a number that is going to make it so I'm all that concerned about his library. You know, when he played those 2 Moxen early, that kept him off the library. I'm activating the Chaos Orb. Obviously waiting until after the white mana is gone. Not sure what I'm activating it on. It might still be on the Animate Dead. But I might be doing something like a colored mana source or his library, not the Animate Dead, because now that his trike is just an 0/1, I'm not all that concerned about how big it is. So we'll see. All right, the flip is good. Gets rid of the blue Mox. Okay. I'm attacking for 4. He jump blocks. I kind of expected that. I made a mistake here. I put the Triskelion back where it was in the graveyard, not where it should go, because it actually did enter play and go back. So it should actually be on top of my my Chaos Orb. There's his Black Mox, and it doesn't matter because he brings it back, and we can rectify the situation soon enough. I'm going to correct the life totals here in a moment. I forgot that that he shot me for some damage from the Triskelion. So you'll see. I will adjust my life total here in momentarily. Mistake on my part. Yeah, so we're correct now. 14 to 16. Swing it in with the trike, and he's not blocking because mine's bigger than his. Good old copy artifact here. There's 2 trikes on the table, so there's no way that both of them are going to go away with only 1 colored mana source untapped. So make a copy of trike. So now I've got 2 4/4s on the table. He draws a card, says go. Swinging in for 8. Triskelion is a really, really good card in pre-modern. You'll see it's in a lot of decks that aren't actually shops decks, aren't artifact based. Alright, so he blocks with the Triskelion. You can see I actually put it back in the correct spot. And then he takes 4 from the other Triskelion. So he's got 6 damage that is just waiting to go his way at any point in time now. So if he takes 1 more hit from a 4/4 Triskelion, he's pretty much gonna be done for this game. Yeah, and then he just concedes right there. So I ended up winning game number 1. So pretty handily in my favor. This is the first match, so I was a little nervous about playing. I'm always nervous when it comes to big events, specifically about the first match, because you don't want to start off with a loss if you don't have to. So yeah, he entered his scoop phase, and we were going into sideboard here. Now I don't recall what it was that I sideboarded in here, and I did not actually record our conversations after the matches about our sideboarding decisions. So, but my sideboard does include obviously 15 cards. Now, I did show you the main deck before, and my main deck has a copy of City in a Bottle in it, so I'm fairly certain I'm going to board in the second one because he has 4 Bazaars. So in my sideboard, I've got a counter spell, a flash counter, a Circle of Protection red, a second copy of City in a Bottle, a second Relic Barrier, 1 copy of Dust to Dust, 1 more Divine Offering, a Tormod's Crypt, a Mirror Universe, a 4th Disenchant, 2 copies of Swords to Plowshares, 2 blue Elemental Blasts, and a second copy of the Abyss. So now the Abyss isn't terrible against this deck because we're going to see some other creatures, and he doesn't just rely on his opponent having artifact creatures or whatnot. So Nyarla Top Deck, hey, welcome. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. So shuffling up for game number 2. Hoping that we can have another decent game here. Decent as in obviously I'm always hoping that I win. I'm hoping that I honestly would prefer to have a good game that is like lots of back and forth, lots of counterplay and things like that. And I'm okay with losing those types of games. It's when they're like really lopsided and whatnot that they're sometimes unfun. So all right, so I've shuffled up. I presented my deck. You see, I put a die with a number 3 on the left, for 1, 2, 3. So, random rules question: if you copy artifact and animated Mishra's Factory with Ankh of Mishra in play, do you take 2? Yes, because it enters the battlefield as if it were played as a Mishra's Factory. It doesn't enter as an animated factory. It just enters as a land named Mishra's Factory. So yes, good question there. Yeah, and that's a strategy that you'll see a lot of players will make if they're running copy artifact in Mishra's Factory, where you activate the factory and either before or after attacks. If you do it before you attack, you play a copy artifact to make a copy of the Mishra's Factory. You can pump the animated factory still. But it just enters as a copy of the artifact. However, that artifact would have entered the battlefield. So with Mishra's Factory, when you play a Mishra's Factory as a card, it's just a land, and that's how the copy artifact would enter the battlefield. Now, the copy artifact would still be an enchantment, so it can still be disenchanted before you actually animate it. All right, so Brian is shuffled up, presented, and ready and raring to go, and I'm assuming that he's going to be on the play. A lot of times people who are running Reanimator style decks will actually be on the draw, but I believe Brian did opt to be on the play here. The reason they will go on the draw is so that they can draw up to 8 and then just discard a fatty, so that on the following turn they can use Animate Dead to bring it back to their to play. Alright, so I mulligans, announced my mulligan, and then looked at my top card. Again, you'll see that with Shops decks that there's going to be a lot of mulliganing involved. You want to get those threats. So now we know that our opponent is playing a Reanimator style deck. Icy Manipulator is a lot stronger in this matchup than in a lot of other matchups. Not that Icy is a bad card at all, because it definitely is not. But Icy Manipulator is a threat because of the fact that if he gets a creature on the table, I can just tap it, so it can't actually do any damage to me. The exception would be if he's playing our big lobster friend from Fallen Empires. So, and the reason being is it has an activated ability that gives it Shroud. Okay, so let's see. They use the deep spawn's ability in response to Abyss. Does Abyss fizzle? Well, yeah, it does. And here's why. Because the Abyss actually targets the creature that you sacrifice. So you target the deep spawn with the Abyss ability, and then you use the ability to give the deep spawn Shroud. It doesn't retarget or anything like that. So, all right, so Brian went first, and he goes, it looks like on my upkeep he went Ancestral Recall, which is a pretty good play. So, he gets card. So he played a Mox, which brings him down to 6 cards, plays the Ancestral down to 5, goes up to 8 cards. If he does that on my upkeep, he doesn't have to discard. If he does it during his own turn, which looks like he did not do it on his own turn. Oh, he did do it on his own turn. Okay, so that he had a Badlands to play, so that he doesn't have to discard. But by having a Badlands and a Mox, that means he has access to Animate Dead. All right, so I strip the black source there. Important because of the fact that it is a black source for Animate Dead and for something along the lines of All Hallows Eve. Alright, so I play my own Mox and pass the turn. City Brass. Alright, so now he's got all the colors. Alright, I'm going to throw down a factory. Alright, and I've got 5 cards left in my hand, and I pass the turn. Soul Ring. Seems good. I heard that was a good card. Plays land, plays a Chaos Orb. Oh, all kinds of fun going on here. And with a board state like that, strategy could be just mana denial. And that's not a bad strategy at all against some decks. He knows that I'm playing Shop, so he knows that I can get pretty explosive pretty quickly. I play a Mox, and then I played a Library, and then a Twister. The idea here is that I play the Library as my land for the turn to either force him to pop the Chaos Orb right now, or he has to allow me to start drawing extra cards with that Library. So he's in the tank. I'm sure he's going to use... Alright, so he's taking a point, down to 19. I'm winning. Woot. Red Elemental Blast, which is pretty good. That was not something that I was expecting, but definitely something that was a good play here. Now, I've got 3 cards in my hand, so you know, he doesn't want me to draw a bunch of cards because I can get threats out on the table, and I can get them out pretty quickly, just like a Reanimator deck can. So that was a good move on his part, and that is a pretty sweet altered Red Elemental Blast. You can see that the original artist did an alter on it to include like a blue little swoosh there. So it's not just a little red, red burst of magic, but there's a blue burst of magic in the background of that. It's actually really, really cool. It seems like Brian's in the tank here. Not sure what he's doing. Alright, Bazaar Baghdad. Alright, we knew that this was going to happen eventually, and that he would want to get a Bazaar in play. So, Bazaar, tap, draw 2 cards, discard 3. Staple of Reanimator decks. Fill that graveyard up, get some targets in there so that you can cast something like Reanimate Dead, Resurrection, or something like All Hallows Eve. So, there I am activating the factory and getting in there for 2. Take it and like it, Brian. Alright, 3 cards left in my hand. I'm not sure what how many Brian has. Not very many though. He's played some extra cards like the Red Elemental Blast, the Chaos Orb, the Soul Ring, and the Sapphire, so he probably doesn't have too many cards in hand, and I'm going to assume his strategy pretty soon is going to be to start activating that Bazaar to find some reanimation targets and dump them in the bin. Yep, so there he goes, activating the Bazaar. Draw 2, discard 3. In the tank about what he wants to discard. I think that quite a few times when Brian was discarding, he knew one or two of the cards that he wanted to get rid of, but there was a tough choice sometimes for the third card. So like right there, he gets rid of an All Hallows Eve, and he gets rid of Badlands. So that leads me to believe that he has an All Hallows Eve in play, or sorry, in his hand still. And then the strip mine there is probably to stave off the factory for a little while. Tapping my library to animate the factory and swing. Alright, so we had a Swords to Plowshares. Alright, so that gains me some life here. I go up to 22. Alright, so he has the strip mine as well, so he can do some stuff. I pay 6 mana, which means something good is coming into play. This time it is, in fact, a Tetravis. So we've got a 4/4 flyer in the air. So we've got a threat on the table. We've got a few cards in hand. It looks like 2. Sounds like somebody's at the door. Sorry about that, everybody. Brian in the tank here, trying to decide what he's going to do. The Tetravis probably isn't great for him. I mean, most players don't want to have to deal with a 4/4 flyer, especially after he just used the Swords to Plowshares. Alright, so he's activating his orb. Going to use his City of Brass. And it's a hit. So the Tetravis goes away. Now you'll see in old school Magic there are definitely different techniques for flipping orbs. Now the technique that that Brian used, you can kind of see that he took the orb and he held a finger under it so that it hits the finger, which causes it to rotate in the air. I don't like that technique personally because, in my opinion, it makes for some unpredictable bounces. But okay, so he tutored for something. He stripped my shop, and then said go. Not the end of the world. Okay, so I've got another mana source, so I do have 6 mana again. And then I pass the turn. Looks like I got 2 cards in hand. He plays another Mox. All the manas. That is a Dust to Dust. I cast Mana Drain on the Dust to Dust, so that I'm going to have 3 mana on the following turn. Now, I do remember this play. He actually targeted my my Mox Ruby and my Soul Ring, so I would have still had 2 blue mana. Draw a card. So I would have still had 2 blue mana. I take 3 mana burn right here because I can't use that. But I would have had the mana drain in my hand for a future turn to deal with a future spell. And that Dust to Dust, because of the fact that he targeted the Ruby and the Soul Ring, it wasn't that bad for me. Alright, so he's activating his Bazaar, drawing 2, discarding 3. Alright, so he pitches 3 lands. Still hasn't discarded a creature. Obviously, I have a creature in my graveyard, but if he is holding on to All Hallows Eve, which is what I suspect because he discarded an All Hallows Eve, then you know, he doesn't want to cast an All Hallows Eve, and I get a 4/4 back for basically free. Alright, 4 mana. Su-Chi. This is the worst feeling in the world here, when somebody Divine Offerings the Su-Chi, because I take 4 mana burn because I have no way to sink the mana anywhere, and he gains 4 life off the Divine Offering. So that's definitely a feel bad, but it's something that you have to expect when somebody's playing white in old school Magic, is that Divine Offering exists, and Su-Chi is a very, very juicy target for something along those lines. Alright, Brian's got another Bazaar, so he's got all kinds of fun stuff going on, and he can draw cards for days. Strip mine, getting rid of the scrubland. And he draws another scrubland. Alright, so I'm at 3 cards. Haven't really done much. So go. He's in the tank here. Probably a little frustrated here. You see there's 15 cards in his graveyard right now, and he has not discarded a creature card yet. He's casting the All Hallows Eve right now, and he's doing it blind. He's got nothing in the graveyard to return, and I have a Su-Chi and I have a Tetravis. He's activating his Bazaar here, probably in the hopes of dumping another creature. He discards 3 cards, and they are not. He mills 2. Finally gets something. He gets a Triskelion, so he's going to have something in his graveyard at the very least. And he's got, with what's on the board, he's got a minimum of 4 activations of Bazaars. So, alright, so he untaps, removes one of the Scream counters from the All Hallows Eve. Draws and mills during his upkeep, and then draws a card. Alright, so he's got over 20 cards in his graveyard, and there's only 1 creature, and it's that lone Triskelion. I have a Tetravis and a Su-Chi in my graveyard, so those are going to come back from the All Hallows Eve. On his upkeep with the All Hallows Eve on the stack, he activates both of his Bazaars. Draws and pitches another Triskelion, so he finally does have a second threat in there. All Hallows Eve is going to resolve, and then I get 2 4/4s, and so does he. Now my life total is lower than his is, so these Triskelions are pretty good, not gonna lie. Alright, so he goes to draw for his turn. Takes another point from his City of Brass to play a Sedge Troll. Yeah, so Brian's running Sedge Trolls and I think Sarah Angels also as threats that he can cast that he doesn't need to dump. So I'm casting a Swords of Plowshares here, and chances are I'm going to target that Sedge Troll. Beautiful artist proof of Swords of Plowshares out of my sideboard. Thank you very much for that, Jeff Benges. Untap and draw. Two mana to disenchant one of the trikes. I haven't activated my factory yet, so he can't shoot the factory. So that means that he's only going to have 1/4/4 on the table to block my Su-Chi, and then I'll have. I mean, he can chump block the Su-Chi, shoot the factory, and basically prevent the attack from 2 creatures, and he'd take 4 in the air. All right, so he's doing 3 to me. I go down to 12. And I just turn the Tetravus sideways. I accidentally add to his life total instead of subtract. And then it looks like it passed the turn. He's in the tank here. No sense in attacking. Takes another point of damage from the City of Brass to cast a Sedge Troll. I forget to mark it. But we'll get there. Alright, and we should be at 12 apiece. You see that Brian's keeping track of his life total also. Yep. 2 mana. Copy artifact. He tells me to back up because he did go a little fast there. I get that. I just assumed it was going to resolve. He doesn't have mana for a red elemental blast, but he could have some sort of counterspell of some sort. Or he could have a disenchant. So if he disenchanted the Tetravus, I just wouldn't be able to make a copy of Tetravus. But I mean, I've got 8 power of flying in the air now. So things are looking pretty good for me. Alright, I untap. 3 cards in hand. Swinging in for 8. Bringing him down to 4. So he needs 2 removal spells, or he needs to somehow get a flyer into play here. And have a removal spell. So, strip mine out of my hand. Looks like things are going to wrap up here pretty soon. Get rid of white source that is not City of Brass. And that's me playing to my outs, just in case he has a way to deal with some stuff. It's chances are it's got to be white, and that also means that if I get another copy artifact or a Triskelion, that I can win without combat damage if he taps that City of Brass. Okay, so that was it, and I win the match 2-0. So again, we'll take a look at my Esper Shops deck. This is what I've got running right now. This is what I'm playing in the Old School Magic Winter Derby. So yeah, it was a pretty good match, pretty good way to start the event. So we're going to take a quick break. During the break, I'm going to run an ad because the way Twitch works, I don't want it running ads in the middle of any of the matches. So I'm going to take a quick break and run an ad. I'm going to get a refill on my drink, and then we're going to come back and we are going to do another match. So stick around, please. Okay, we're back. Thanks for sticking around. I do appreciate that. Yeah, so the shirt, I'm pretty suspicious of basically anything that people say is fact. It is a quote that was made by Mason Alexander Park in his role as Ian on the new Quantum Leap TV show. Definitely, I think you guys should check that out if you were a fan of the original series or if you like time travel in general. I kind of miss doing the streams too because we didn't get to talk about just random things and whatnot. Like they just announced there's going to be a new season of Cobra Kai. It's season 6 of Cobra Kai is going to be the last season, which is pretty sad. But it's been a long journey for that show. So, all right, we'll take a look again at our deck. This is the Esper Shop deck that I played in the Old School Magic Winter Derby. And then we're going to get into match number 2. So, here we go. Playing against Tino this time. So, as you can tell, Tino is part of the New England Old School crew. I don't recall what Tino was playing, so it'll come back to me, I'm sure. And we'll see what we can do in this round here. Shuffling up some random banter and whatnot. I spaced out my matches pretty evenly, where I was having a match like every day or every other day, something along those lines, so that there were times where I would just sit down and play like 3, 4, or all of my batches of Magic and get it all done in one day. And that's pretty taxing on a person to do that when you're playing on webcam. And if you're coming in, you're playing a match and then taking a break, and then coming in and taking playing a match and taking a break. Especially if suppose you had one at noon, and then you play until 1, and then you play another one at 2, so you have like an hour long in between. It's definitely different than playing Magic in person. I really do like playing old school Magic, and I like webcam games. So I'm hoping that I can do some more of it here pretty soon. I had some trouble sleeping last night, so in the middle of the night, I posted on Facebook that I was wide awake. So I got a message from Rich Shea, the ATOG Lord himself. So shout out to Rich. He says, "Hey, since you're awake, do you want to play some Magic?" And we played Magic and shot the shit for 2 hours, which was fun. So definitely appreciate all the friends that I have who and have made from playing old school Magic. Shout out to the crew from Mill City Old School. Those are the guys who did the Tuesday Night Gauntlet, and they're based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So, all right. So we're taking our hands. We're going to decide on some mulligans. I think Tino won the die roll. It is choosing to decide, choosing to mulligan or not. Talked to him about he accidentally flashed his hand to me, and then I accidentally flashed my hand to him. So what goes around comes around, right? Okay. Oh, so I won the die roll. Okay. So I go with my Sweet Island on turn 1, play a couple of Moxen, and then go for a Time Twister, which is a hell of a play. Means I'm going to have 7 cards. I'll have 3 or maybe even 4 mana on the following turn, possibly even more. What's great about a Time Twister, especially this early and the opponent hasn't played a turn, is you don't get to mulligan from a Time Twister. So it's possible that by playing an early Time Twister, you can get your opponent off the good cards that they had if they had a good hand. You can possibly mana screw your opponent, things of that nature. So we're going to have to see what happens here. Those sweet Garbage Pail Kids. Yeah, they look really, really cool. Still have a handful of unused ones here sitting next to me. I just yeah, they just don't have the durability of the dragon shields that I'm used to using. So, and he draws a 7. I drew my 7. And it looks like I'm going to pass the turn. Yep. So, I mean, there are only 3 Moxen left in my deck, so you know it doesn't really matter. You're not expecting to necessarily draw another Mox and have additional plays here. Okay, so Dark Ritual out of a Mox Jet into a Pump Knight. 1 more black. So Sinkhole. Sinkhole my island. Sorry about Old School Guard. He got rid of your cool island. Be mad at him. Hate the player, not the game. So that's a pretty aggressive turn. Obviously, he played 5 cards. So yeah, boo. But I mean, it's strategy on his part. You know, I don't know what his strategy is right now, but to me it looks like mono black out of the gate. Possibly something like Dead Guy, which is black and white. So I play another land, and then I decide to do some stuff. I copy the Mox Jet. So chances are, by making that play, I don't have another mana source in my hand, or I want to guarantee that I have mana for something on the following turn. Now, cool thing is, if I have the Abyss, you know, I can deal with the black creatures, and it gives me the mana right then and there to do that. All right, Hypnotic Spectre. Not a fan of that card. It's okay if it's on my side. Not so cool when it's on my opponent's side of the table. So now he still doesn't know what I'm on. I really haven't tipped my hand as to what's going on, even though I did tip my hand literally. So strip mine on one of his black sources, and then I do cast the Abyss. All right, so I'm probably gonna he's probably gonna get rid of the Pump Knight here so that he can hit me with the Spectre, which is obviously the correct play. So he's in the tank. He's thinking, but yeah, I definitely think he should get rid of the Pump Knight here. Yeah, there he goes. Yeah, because if he hits me with the Spectre, you know, he makes me discard a card at random. So he at least gets some value out of it. Plus, if he plays another creature here, then he can hit me with the Spectre again. So he goes Swamp into Soul Ring. Or sorry, taps the Mox Jet into a Soul Ring. Smacks me for 2 with the Hypnotic Spectre. I go down to 16, and now I need to discard a card at random. Put a number 5 on there to represent how many cards are in my hand, and he chooses number 3, right dead set in the middle, so he gets Triskelion. Alright, he did not play a creature, so he only got the 1 hit with the Hypnotic Spectre, which is good for me. Alright, and then I'm going to cast a Su-Chi. Now, the Abyss targets a non-artifact creature, and each player's upkeep, they sacrifice target non-artifact creature they control. So all of my artifact creatures are immune to the Abyss. Anything that, if somebody was playing pro-black, obviously the Abyss would be a bit tough. He's got a strip mine here, so yeah, he's stripping my Underground Sea, which is a good play. It shuts me off blue and gets me off 4 mana at the same time. Alright, so Abyss does nothing. I draw a card, and I go ahead and swing here. Alright, so now we're at parity when it comes to life totals, but I have a 4/4 on the table that a black deck really can't deal with when it comes to old school Magic. Alright, he plays a Hymn to Torok. Alright, so I have to discard 2 cards at random here. All right, put the 5 out there. Tell him, and Tino's going to pick a couple. So he has me pick the 1 and 2. So he gets the recall, which is the 1 of in my deck that he doesn't know. Then he gets another trike. So he's doing good at grabbing some stuff. He's getting me to discard some good cards. But swinging in for 4, bringing him down to 12. So he's got 3 more turns if nothing else happens to the board. All right, so he does nothing. Passes the turn. I swing for 4. Brings him down to 8. At this point, I've got to be wondering whether or not he actually has white or if he just got mono black. Another swamp. Hypnotic Spectre. Royal Assassin. Okay, so now he's got 2 creatures on the table. Alright, so the Abyss is going to take something out. And I've got 6 cards. I only have the 3 mana on the table, 2 of which is black. I got the black, black, green. Play another Mox, keeping that land destruction in his hand. And then I pass the turn. The reason I pass the turn here is I don't want him to just tap the Royal Assassin and kill my Su-Chi, and then I would lose some. I would lose 4 life due to mana burn. All right, so he hymns me. So I had 5 cards in hand. So I'm going to go back down to 3 again. All right, he gets rid of Mana Drain and another Triskelion. All right, so for those keeping track at home, that's the 3rd Triskelion that he has made me discard randomly. So he's really good at the random discard game. There's a shop. A little bit late, but still tapping 6. So let's see what we've got here. All right, Triskelion number 4. I did draw it. And then I shoot the Royal Assassin so that I can swing in for 4. Brings him down to 4. So he needs a blocker that has toughness greater than 2 in order to survive this turn. I'm digging the Royal Assassin. That's a pretty cool card. Nice nostalgia there, obviously, with Royal Assassin in conjunction with a card like Icy Manipulator. So right now I'm still thinking that that he is just mono black and possibly splashing white, but I do not know. So we're going to go into the sideboard here, and again my sideboard includes another copy of the Abyss, 2 copies of Blue Elemental Blast, 2 Swords of Plowshares, a 4th Disenchant, a Mirror Universe, Tormod's Crypt, a Divine Offering, Dust to Dust, a Relic Barrier, a City in a Bottle, a Circle of Protection Red, a Flash Counter, and a Counter Spell. Alright, so he does have some protection from white in his deck, but I still think that Swords of Plowshares is decent here. I have a Relic Barrier in the main deck and a City in a Bottle in the main deck that are probably not going to be great in this matchup unless he is running Juzoms. Now, it's possible that somebody who's playing Mono Black is running Juzoms, and he could have sandbagged it because of the fact that his life total was so low, because I could have just, just sat back and let him take some damage from that over time or whatnot. While I don't recall 100%, I'm going to assume that I boarded in the 2nd copy of the Abyss and the 2 Swords of Plowshares, and that was it. I might have boarded out the Tanos' Coffin, and it's possible that I boarded out Fellwar Stone. That was something that I boarded out quite frequently. So if I did board out 4 cards, I probably brought in a Counterspell as the 4th card out of my sideboard. But again, I don't recall. Now, I might be recalling this incorrectly, but I do believe that Tino traveled to the Buffalo Stampede, I do believe. Buffalo Stampede was a tournament, an old school tournament that was held in Buffalo, New York, to coincide with an evening Packers Buffalo Bills game. So artist Jeff Menendez is a big Packers fan. So part of that was that he went to the Packers game, the Packers and Bills game, and it was me with Dave Firth Bard and Chris Mason and Jeff Menendez hanging out after the event, going to the Packers and Bills game, which was definitely a fun time. It made for a very, very long day with driving from Syracuse to Buffalo, and then playing Magic all day, going and watching an 8 o'clock game at night, you know, and I wasn't back on the road to leave for home until after midnight. So it definitely made for a long day, but it was a fun event, a fun time. So shout out to the New England Old School guys, DFB, for putting that on, coordinating that. I played a Shops deck in that event and actually won that event too. So, excuse me. So that was pretty cool. All right, so it looks like Tino's taking a mulligan here, or is he still sideboarding? I looked away. I think he's still sideboarding. Oh no. I think he took a mulligan here. If he's mono black, he doesn't have any way to deal with artifacts, which is definitely going to be a pretty tough uphill battle for him. But if he is splashing the whites, then you know, I'm going to expect that to see some disenchants, maybe divine offerings, or even dust to dust. Just because we didn't see whites in game number 1 does not mean it does not exist. So. One thing I'm assuming is that he's going to have copies of the Rack in his deck. The Rack is 1 mana artifact where the opponent takes damage equal to the number of cards fewer than 4. Fewer than 3. So if you have 2 cards, you take 1. You have 1 card, you take 2. You have 0 cards, you take 3. At the beginning of each upkeep. If you straight black, he might also be playing something along the lines of Underworld Dreams, which is a really fun card. It's one of my pet cards in old school. I really do like it. So. All right, so he's mulliganing again. It doesn't bode well for him, but I know that he wants to make sure that he gets the best hand possible that he can. Mulligans suck. They always do, especially in a format where Mind Twist exists. So, like, if I were mulliganing to 5 here and he was on the play, it would be pretty painful if I got hit with either a Mind Twist or a Hymn to Torok early, because it can just crush your spirits, crush your whole game plan right then and there. Had it happen before. I had an opponent go off on turn 1 with 3 Dark Rituals, Hymn to Torok, and a Sengir Vampire. I hadn't done anything yet. I had kept a 2-land hand, and my opponent with that Hymn to Torok got both of the lands. So you don't need land destruction if you just rip them apart from the opponent's hands. So keeping this one, I think. Let's see. Alright, so Swamp, Dark Ritual, pretty good start. Hypnotic Spectre? No, Soul Ring. Alright, he has 2 black, 2 colorless, Shenanigans, Greed. Okay, so if he can win the card advantage race, then he can definitely pull ahead. But he needs to hope that I don't stick an early threat here. Greed can help him get back in the game pretty quickly. Alright, so 2 mana. A Time Walk. Basically casting an Explore here, but who knows? I mean, could end up drawing a Mox Shop and doing some other stuff. Alright, so Soul Ring. So I got 3, 4, and with that, and Icy Manipulator. Not the greatest start, but it is pretty explosive here. Because I do have, now on the following turn, I'm going to have access to 5, possibly 6 mana, and the Icy Manipulator. So he's activating the Greed. He's going to draw some cards. He does play a scrub land, so my thought, of course, with him playing Dead Guy was correct. He plays 2 copies of the rack when I have 3 cards, so I am still not going to take any damage from it just yet. So draw a card up to 4. Activate the factory and swing. If he has Swords of Plowshares, he has it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Okay, so he takes the 2, brings himself down to 6, and I still have 4 cards. And it looks like I'm going to pass the turn. Upkeep, I tap something. Oh, no, I wait till after he draws. And then I tap the white source. Oh, end step he drew cards with Greed. That's what happened. Alright, another swamp. So that's... Greed is a 4 mana enchantment for 1 black, pay 2 life, and draw a card. So I have 4 cards in my hand, and he draws a Disrupting Scepter. Not cool, but, you know, I'm still not in reach of the rack, so that's not terrible for me. Another factory. Activate the factory, swing, and then pump. He's only got black mana, so he doesn't have any way to deal with it. So he takes 3 here, brings him down to 11. And I say go with 4 cards in hand. So he would need a Hymn to Torok and activate the Disrupting Scepter here. So he pays 2 life at end of turn to draw another card. So he's at 9. Upkeep, do I do anything? I think that it's a good plan here to tap down the Soul Ring, or maybe I tap down the Disrupting Scepter. If I tap down the Scepter, that means that he tapped 3 permanents. So I've got 3 cards in hand. He can still cast a Hymn and have me start taking some damage every turn. So. If he casts a Hymn, brings me down to 1 card, I would take 4. And if I do nothing, then I would take 2. And then I would take 0. So I would take 6 damage over the course of 2 turns. But over those same 2 turns, he could possibly take 8 from the Mishra's factories. But he draws a Strip Mine. He kills the Winter factory. So now he has multiple turns to deal with the other factory. 3 cards in hand, so I still don't take any damage from the rack. Draw a card up to 4. How did I do in the Derby? I did okay. All of my batch 1 and 2 matches are complete, but I don't want to spoil anything for people who want to find out how I'm doing by watching these videos of me playing. So. Alright, so I activate the factory and swing. I pump, bring it up to 3. He takes it, goes down to 6. Alright, so he is pretty darn close to being dead here. I've got 3 cards in hand, so he can make me take some damage. On the upkeep, I make him tap something. If I target the Soul Ring, then he might tap the Soul Ring, a swamp, and the and the Disrupting Scepter. If I target the Disrupting Scepter, he might do the exact same thing. So regardless of what I tapped, he tapped 3 things. So I'm down to 2 cards, which means I'm going to take 2 damage on my upkeep minimum, because there's 2 copies of the rack and I'm under 3 cards. Him to Torok here would be pretty brutal. He draws a factory, so he is good for a little bit longer if he doesn't tap it. But he does tap it here, and he pays 3 mana, and what are we doing? We're going to play a creature? Oh, alright, he Mind Twists me for 2. Alright, so now I'm going to start taking 6 damage a turn. Alright, so I need to outrace his 6 damage. So I can take 6 damage right here. I'm at 14. And I can swing back right now and deal 4. Which definitely does not feel bad for me. Alright, so attack with both factories. Bring him down to 2. So his greed is shut off. I have 1 card in hand. And I'm definitely going to take 6 the next turn. Because chances are he's going to use his Disrupting Scepter to make me discard the 1 card that is in my hand. But regardless of what the card is, even if it's like a disenchant or something along those lines, holding on to the card and forcing him to make me discard it is the best play here. Make him use that mana, choke his resources a little bit. If it's a disenchant, awesome, I disenchant a rack. If it's a Divine Offering, then after he activates the scepter, I can Offering the Scepter to gain some life to mitigate what's happening with the racks. I could also tap down his factory after, if he decides to make me discard. I discard a card, I tap his factory down so that he doesn't have a blocker. So all kinds of options given the board state that's here. So I'm in the driver's seat. Pretty good position. The only thing that would really suck is like a dust to dust, getting rid of the icy, or anything to get rid of the icy here is bad, but because the icy means I can tap down his factory end step, and if he plays a second creature, I can tap that as well. So I still have the win. If the icy stays on the table. He's in the tank. He's trying to decide what to do. Not sure what he's got in his hand. Alright, 2 mana. Animate dead. Alright, not what I was expecting. So he takes my Triskelion, which is pretty good for him, not gonna lie. But again, it means that he has 2 blockers, but he also has 1 that can get rid of 1 of my creatures. But if I go end step, tap factory, and then tap the Triskelion, and I can still attack with both. He can shoot 1 of them and still has to take the 2. So unless he also has a removal spell in his hand. Alright, so he didn't make me discard. Go end step, tap the white source. Okay. Alright, so I have 1 card in hand, so I only take 4. Draw up to 2 cards. Alright, still the right thing to do to tap the Triskelion here, because that's the big one. Don't recall what's in my hand and I can't see. In the tank. Four mana. Icy Manipulator. Okay, so by tapping that white source, I basically gave him an additional turn here if I would have tapped the factory, and then I could have tapped the Triskelion, and I could have possibly attacked for 2. He would have to have a Disenchant or a Swords to Plowshares, Divine Offering, something along those lines. An instant of some sort to deal with both factories by shooting one with a trike. So I don't think I made the correct play here, but it's not really a bad play per se. So I've got 2 ices on the table, which isn't terrible here. I've got 1 card in hand, which feels bad, not gonna lie, but I had to keep a factory up because I don't want to get smacked for 5, and then take 3 more from a Triskelion, and then all of a sudden, what am I going to do? I could end up dying because of another animate dead or something along those lines. Yeah, because if I would have tapped my factories and didn't kill him, then he could go attack with factory and Triskelion for me to take 5, shoot me for 2 from the Triskelion, bringing me down to 3, shoot the Triskelion to kill itself, cast another animate, bring it back, and do lethal to me. So got the 1 card in hand. He's making me discard it, which is definitely the right thing for him to do. It's just a Mox of some sort. I think that's a Ruby. And then he casts an Underworld Dreams. Alright, so things are not going well right now for me, but I think that because of my board state, if he had had a little bit more time, he would have, he might have been able to pull this off. But so I take 6 on my upkeep. I take 1 from the Underworld Dreams. He's at 4. I have 2 factories. I can just swing for the win. Oh, but he has the Triskelion, so no. He brings me down to 1. And I conceded a game that I think that I probably won. Yeah, I think I conceded a game that I actually had the win on the table, and I just overthought some things. Oh, no. Okay, so he shot me with a Triskelion on my upkeep. He shot me with a Triskelion on my upkeep, so that it brought me down, so that I was going to take lethal damage from the Underworld Dreams. So I drew the card with the Underworld Dreams trigger on the stack, probably hoping for like a Divine Offering or something along those lines. That's what happened. So yeah, we're going to go into a game number 3. So that was definitely a good game. Some nice back and forth there. And we got some more information too. So we see that he has animate deads. He is looking to bring some stuff out of the bin. He does have Underworld Dreams. He has whites. So we have more information than we did. I don't think that I sideboard here, though. It does not appear that that I'm going to sideboard. No, I don't sideboard any further. So here we go. I do some shuffling around of the cards. Little 3-card Monty here to make sure that my cards are randomized enough. And I'm on the play here. So let's see what we can do on the play with my shop stack versus Dead Guy Ale. Alright, so I mulligan. It looks like I accidentally had a card flipped, which is good because I mulligan. So that means that we don't accidentally reveal a card later on. He mulligans also, so we're both going to 6. It's one of those times when you're both going to mulligan. Sometimes you you want to offer your opponent, hey, maybe we should just both take 7 instead. Yeah, so he played that very, very well at the end. I think I played a little too cautiously the one turn. So that could have cost me if he had if I was playing around something that he didn't have in his hand. It cost me. If I was playing around something and he did have it, then I just prolonged the game a little bit. But here's what it is. So we're on our 6 card hands. Let's see what we do here. I accidentally reveal part of my hands to the webcam. Tino goes down to 5. Now, he mulligans in the last game and pulled it off. So, mulliganing obviously does not mean that you're going to lose the game. You're just trying to get a hand that is going to be manageable for what lies in front of you. So. Shuffling up my hand. Whether or not you know this or not, Magic players, if you shuffle the cards in your hand, sometimes your hand gets better. So, that's just a pro tip there that I learned in the 20 plus years, 25 plus years that I've been playing Magic. Shuffle those cards, especially if it's a bad hand. Shuffle up those cards, then you might have better cards in your hand when you look at it again. All right, so Tony puts 2 back. I play a Mox and an Underground and say go. Now, I accidentally flashed that Emerald, so he might have known that I was going to play it. I don't know. All right. This is scary when the black deck has the Mox Jet early. I was worried about him to Torok, so. But he gets rid of my Underground Sea. I rip one off the top and just throw it right down, and then I pass the turn. 3 mana, Underworld Dreams. Not a huge clock, but I mean it's annoying nonetheless. I am playing white, and I do have Disenchants in my deck, so it's something that I can deal with if I need to. I have 4 cards in hand. I play a Tundra, and say go. Him. Not a fan. I hate it when I have to discard cards out of my hand. I want to play my cards. I want to be able to draw lands, play my cards. I want to do stuff, have some fun. So, hard to do that when I don't have cards in hand. Jerk face. Alright, so a shop and a Tetravis. So, I'm going to assume that I didn't play the shop because I didn't want it to get sinkholed. Obviously, it got smacked with the him instead. Alright, so I play lands. I play a Soul Ring. I've got 1 card in hand. I've got 6 mana on the following turn available with what's on the table right now. He does not have any white. Alright, so I go down to 17, keep on taking some damage from the Underworld Dreams. Tap all 6. And play a Triskelion. I take a point from my own City of Brass. And pass the turn. So now I've got a 4/4 on the table. He draws a white source. 2 mana can only mean one thing. It's a disenchant. I'm in the tank for a moment, but I just decided to shoot 3 at him. Untap, draw, take a point from the trigger from the Underworld Dreams. Take another point from the City of Brass to play another Trike. It's possible that I could just keep on running out threats before my opponent can deal with them. I've got 1 card in hand. He casts Animate Dead. I'm going to assume on my Triskelion. Yep. Okay, so we both have Trikes on the table. He has the advantage in life. So I untap, I draw, go down to 13. Attack for 4. Aggressive play here. But if he blocks, I take, there's no trade. I still win this. So, thank God for the 6th edition rules where damage no longer uses the stack. Combat damage doesn't use the stack. So, and then for 4, and I play a Suchi. 1 card in hand. Nope. I take a point. Time Walk. Good one. 0 cards in hand. I'm at 12. I untap. Go down to 11 from the Underworld Dreams. Both my creatures are bigger than his, so I attack for 8. If you haven't read the article about who's the beatdown, I definitely strongly suggest you do. Alright, so he's going to chump block something here and probably shoot me for 3. That definitely makes some sense here. Alright, so I go down to 8. He takes 4. And my trike goes back in my bin. Alright, so he's at 9. He still has a life advantage. He's at a Phantom 6, though, because of my Triskelion. I'm going to take some damage on my draw, going down to 7. So this is going to be another nail-biter, just like game number 2. But it looks like I have an advantage because of the creatures that I have on the table. I draw, take a point, down to 7. I attack for 8. Alright, and then I shoot him for 1. And that is the game. So, I win that match 2-0, which means that in batch 1 of the Old School Magic Winter Derby, I was 2-0 with my shop stack to start. Obviously a great way to start. So again, we'll take a look at my Esper Shop stack that I ran in the Derby. This is what we got. So it's got a lot of toolboxy cards in it, which is not a style that a lot of people like to see or like to play. I could have gone a more aggressive route, had another Suchi in there, possibly another Tetravis, and done some other things, maybe some more copy artifacts. But I like what I've done, what I did with the deck. So in the first 2 matches, it seemed to be running okay. All right, so we're going to take another quick break. I've got to run another ad break so that we don't get an ad during the 3rd match. And the 3rd match is going to be the final one that I'm going to play for you today. So stick around, don't touch that dial. We'll be back in a few moments with another match from the Old School Magic Winter Derby. Alrighty, we're back. Appreciate you sticking around through the break. We're gonna bring you my third match from the Old School Magic Winter Derby. Again, we're going to be using my Esper Shops deck here. Had a lot of fun playing this. I think that I've been converted to the dark side playing Shops. Has been fun. I've had some good games so far. So let's go ahead with match number 3. Here we are. I'm playing against Peter. Again, I don't recall what Peter's running, but I zoomed in a little bit on his webcam. Uses his laptop, so it's like pointed down, and you can actually see part of his laptop in there. So I zoomed in so that you could see his entire play area and whatnot. So I'm practicing some orb flips, I guess. Now, one thing you see, like Peter's practicing some orb flips right now, but one thing that he's doing that a lot of people don't do, that don't realize, when they're flipping their orbs, they'll be moving their hand as opposed to finding that steady spot where they want to flip. And by moving your hand, obviously you can alter the trajectory of the flip. So if you're still moving your hand, trying to find that right spot where you want to go, and then you flip, you can end up making it flip a little bit too far, bouncing, things like that. So like, I'm not the best orb flipper in the world, but it's just one of the things that I try not to do is I try to make sure that I take my time. I try to make sure that I'm not still moving my hand, so that I can hold it as steady as possible, flip, and then basically falls right down. Now, some people have seen, like Brian Weissman, he'll start with his card like this, and he'll arc his elbow down and flick his wrist at the same time when he flips his orbs. It's a technique that he's been doing for 30 years that I cannot do. I've tried. I can't do it with any accuracy. I've also seen a friend of mine will start out back here and flip it onto the table like that. So flip it so it would rotate backwards and land on the table. It actually could do it with a fair amount of accuracy, which is rather cool. That you can just flip from back here and still make the arc as it spins and hit what you want. But again, so a lot of people have been flipping orbs for a hell of a lot longer than I have. So more power to them for the awesome style of orb flips. But Peter, if you're watching this, please just make sure that your hand isn't moving while you flip your orbs, so that you can have a little bit more control. Alright, so presented my deck, and it looks like we are getting ready to play. I tell Peter, just do whatever. Not all that concerned. It's it's a courtesy to make the piles, but if you're cheating in a webcam game of Old School Magic, if you're cheating in Magic in general, you're a jerk. But if you're cheating in a webcam game of Old School Magic, it's specifically when there's nothing on the line, it's like you're just a horrible person. So I tend to trust most people when it comes to playing Magic anyway. There are people who play old school who've been playing like kitchen table Magic for a very, very long time, and they might not be aware of rules of the game, and they might do something that is not necessarily that might not necessarily be within the framework of the rules, but not doing it on purpose. But yeah, right there, Prefontaine, you're right. You're a loser if you cheat in Old School. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, it's different if you're with some buddies and like you try to do something, intentionally, like kind of sneaky to see if they will catch you. like you're trying to be like somewhat obvious. Oh, look at this card that I drew out of the middle of my deck or out of my sideboard. But just like being kind of funny or whatever. Like especially if you're on the ropes or something like that. But or like if you're playing with some buddies and your mana screwed, and you just pick up the deck and thumb through until you find a land, and that's your draw for the turn. That's not always the worst thing in the world. All right, so Peter comes out swinging with a bunch of mana. I play my library right here to basically force him to use his strip mine, which isn't bad. Yeah, not knowing the rules is fine. The one rule that I have seen broken in old school more often than not is people forgetting to take damage from their City of Brass. So, all right, Peter has a another strip mine, and he has an icy, which is good for him, not so good for me, because he can keep me tapped down right now and with what's on the table. So it's not fun looking at that board state. If you've ever been in this position, yeah, definitely don't wish it on people, because it makes for some unfun games. Okay, so disenchant here. Probably going for the icy. I think that's the right... No, I go for the Soul Ring, which I don't think is the correct play. But maybe I'm thinking that I have so many white instants in my deck that if he's going to strip my land and tap my my Pearl, that I'll still be able to use the white mana from the Pearl in response to something. Relic Barrier. Yeah, this is fun. Alright, so now he can keep me tapped down for quite some time. And that's what he does on my upkeep. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have 4 Artist Proof Disenchants. They are 4 in black bordered, 4th edition. And I think they're pretty awesome. If you guys have never had any discussion with Amy Weber, she's a really great person, and she is a little bit bothered by the way that some people act, and she has been mistreated in the past. So some people don't like her for that, which I think is just kind of crappy that people have mistreated her in the past. So, but she is definitely an amazingly talented artist. So I have the artist proofs of the disenchants from her. Alright, so I drew a strip mine, and I got rid of my opponent's strip mine while he was tapped out. Alright, so he gives me a little bit more information here with an ATOG. I'm still not doing the greatest here, though, because on upkeep he just taps me down. I go up to 7 cards, and it doesn't look like I'm really going to be doing much here for the rest of this game. I play a land. It's a blue land. Blue lands are nice. Blue lands cast some good spells. I heard Old School has some pretty powerful blue spells. ATOG comes in swinging, I take a damage. My stuff gets tapped during my upkeep. I don't have access to colored mana now during my turn. I really could use some lands here. I flashed my hand, not intentionally again. And you can see that there's some decent stuff. So I get a shop, which isn't terrible, and then I get to play a book. So if I can draw another non-shop land, then I can start activating that book and maybe get out of the situation that I'm in. Another thing with the book, too, is that if I get another blue source, I can transmute the book away to get something else too, like maybe a threat, or like maybe get my own IC or something along those lines. I'm taking it from that ATOG, taking a beating. Such a great card. 1/2 for 2. Sacrifice an artifact to give it +2/+2 till end of turn. Upkeep. It's got decisions. Obviously the Mox is going to get tapped here. And he taps the shop as well. Actually gives me a little bit of a breather here by doing that. Because now I have access to colored mana on my turn. Doesn't look like I drew a mana source, which would have been nice here. And instead of doing anything, I just pass the turn. Ancestral Recall. Heard it was a good card. I ask him, anytime my opponent casts Ancestral Recall, I ask if they're going to target me. And chances are the answer is no. If an opponent has an Underworld Dreams on the table, then maybe the answer would be yes. But or if I was close to getting decked out, I guess that answer might be good. Yeah, Old School Guard with the draw 3 there. Yep. He doesn't have 2 ices on the table right now. He's got an icy and a relic barrier. So he pays 1 mana for the icy to tap the shop and just tap the relic barrier. Yep. Yep. So he pays 1. He taps the same 2 things. Things still aren't looking great for me. Yeah, he does pay the activation cost of Icy. He tapped his Mox. Did he miss one activation, maybe? I'm not sure. He's got all the manas. He's got control of this game right here. You know, that workshop is definitely something that would be nice if it would untap. He pays 1 to activate his Icy because the activation cost of Icy Manipulator is 1. You just tap the Relic Barrier to tap an artifact. There is no activation cost. There is nothing to pay. Relic Barrier is a 2 mana artifact that says tap target artifact. That's it. Doesn't have a mana cost associated with activating. Yeah. Soul Ring. Look at that. I'm getting some mana. Oh, I definitely would have called somebody out if they were playing things incorrectly. I mean, yeah, I'm really frustrated with this game because I really didn't get to do anything because of him being able to tap my stuff down so early and often. But yeah, I would have noticed if he wasn't paying. And he always had enough mana. He was always keeping 1 mana open so that he could use his Icy. Swinging me for 4. I'm at a Phantom 8 now because of the Triskelion that's on the table. And he taps my Soul Ring and my shop. So now, what I could have done when he tapped the shop is I could have activated the book here, but instead I just entered my scoop phase here. I was not doing very, very well, so I go through and I put the little death symbol up there on the screen. That wasn't a very good game, unfortunately. He just had control of that game early and often, tapping my stuff. I didn't get to play some things, and that's part of part of Magic. Is sometimes you just have to deal with the fact that you're going to have those draws where your opponent is going to have the perfect foil. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's part of the game. Like, I mean, two decks on paper could be evenly matched, but because of the fact that you're not using what's on paper, you're playing the actual cards. I'll see the little Tolaria notifications pop up every once in a while when somebody joined and watched the match. But yeah, with the exception of the second round, all of my opponents actually played on Tolaria, where when I played against Tino, we did play on Whereby instead. But yeah, he had control of that game right from the start. So what are you going to do at that point? I mean, you have to draw the cards to have the answers. So I did not. Alright, so I'm doing some sideboarding. Looks like I board in a handful of cards and board out some as well. So chances are that I boarded in the Disenchant, probably the Divine Offering, and the Dust to Dust. He's playing red, so I probably brought in the two blue Elemental Blasts. And it's possible that I did board in the Mirror Universe in this match. Again, I do not recall. I did see Artifact Creatures, so besides the Atog, he has Triskelions, which is a pretty good creature. I mean, I'm running them too, so I don't know if I bring in the second Abyss here, but I might have. So now against a deck like his, that means that I'm going to take out the City in a Bottle that's in the main deck, definitely. I probably boarded out the Felwar Stone again and the Taunus' Coffin again. He has Shatters that I saw, so I probably shaved at least one of the three Suchis out of my deck, and I might have brought out all two of them. I've never cut all three of them in any of the games that I played in the Winter Derby. Sometimes I just like having that Miser's Copy, and I know that means that I'm going less threat dense. But when the opponent has access to the removal spells that make me take 4 when my Suchi dies, chances are that it's not going to be the best situation for me to be in if I have it in my hand or on the table without something to sink the mana into. Did I get to use the Coffin with the Trike in the Derby? Honestly, I don't believe that I used the Coffin with anything at all during the Derby. At all. It gets sideboarded out a lot, and because I sideboarded out so often, it just might be something that just needs to not be in the main deck. I got to do some cute shenanigans with it when I was playing at the Buffalo Stampede with Coffin and Trike, but I did not. I don't think I did it with in the Derby at all. So Taunus' Coffin exiles a creature, but it notes the number of counters that are on that creature when it's exiled. So when it comes back into play, it comes in with that number of counters. But Triskelion's own ability brings it into play with 3 counters. So if I exile a Triskelion that has 3 counters, the Coffin brings it back with 3 counters. Trike's own ability gives it 3 counters, so it comes in with 6. So that's the awesome Coffin shenanigans. Now, you can kind of do some things when it comes to Tetravis, but when you untap the Coffin, it creates a delayed trigger that doesn't go on the stack until the beginning of your upkeep. So, if you bring the Tetravis back into play that turn, it's not around for the Tetravis' own ability to go on the stack at the beginning of that upkeep. So you don't get to get you don't get to make tokens with the Tetravis every single turn as well. So it's one of those things that it's a little bit of a quirk of the rules here. So we're coming out fast. We started with the Relic Barrier, and then we went to a factory and a Suchi. Relic Barrier isn't doing much. Probably going to be tapping that Mox a bit. I'm going to keep the factory back because I don't have any way to activate it. And then swing with the Suchi, say go, tap the Mox on the upkeep. So this is the exact opposite of what happened game one, where I took care of his land. I'm tapping down his mana source, and while it doesn't take as long, because I have the threats much earlier than my opponent did, it looks like things are going pretty well for me this game. Things are coming up Millhouse. So attacking for 4. He takes it. He's down to 12. I played a Tundra, so now I have some access to some extra mana. On his upkeep, I tap his Mox. So alright, so he's got a shop, which I should have expected based on the number of artifacts that he was running. So he pays 3. He gets out his own Relic Berry. He's got a mana floating, so he takes a point of mana burn by not using it. Goes down to 11. And then on his end step, I cast Divine Offering on the Relic Barrier. So I gain 2 life. His Relic Barrier goes away. Because he could have been just tapping down my Suchi. Which would have meant that we could have done the shenanigans where I tap his Relic Barrier on his end step. So that he can't. Alright, so I strip his shop, just continuing to do the same thing to him that he did to me in the first game by limiting his mana production, putting a clock down. Alright, so I swing again with a Suchi, and then I time walk here. Well, I mean, it was his end step, so it didn't really matter if he, yeah, I mean, I would have gained the life if he would have sacrificed it. I would not have gained the life if he had sacrificed it, but yeah, so things are going well right here. On his upkeep, I tap his Mox again. So I have 2 things I can attack on the following turn, and then my opponent enters his scoop phase. So we've had 2 interesting games that were pretty much non-games for one of the players, where game 1 he controlled my mana pretty hard, and then game 2 I controlled his mana pretty hard. So we're going into a game 3. So this is definitely it's like, okay. And I do remember that I said, well, we both had some pretty terrible luck in terrible games, 1 and 2. So let's have a real game here. And yeah, obviously you want to hope for real games when it comes to playing Magic. I mean, it is a tournament, yes, so you're going to maybe see some mind twisting and some things of that nature. But at the end of the day, you want to play good games. Yeah, old school is not a forgiving format. Not at all. You live by the sword and you die by the sword. So you have all this powerful stuff that you can do, but it also means that your opponent has the powerful stuff too. And we're playing in a 4-strip format. Now, granted, I'm only playing 3 strip mines in my deck, but I mean the fact still remains. Being able to tap down your opponent's stuff with Relic Barriers, Nices, and stripping the lands away and dealing with things that hit the table and making it so that they have fewer resources to play their game. I mean, that's all just an integral part of playing Magic in general, not just in old school, but in other formats as well. Now, it's just more prominent in old school because you get to do the broken things so quickly with, having access to Soul Ring, Moxen, and Lotus. And like in my deck, I've got, the workshops as well, so I can be super duper explosive and do some things that are broken in the format pretty quickly. But the opponents have the opportunity to put the decks together like that too. Now, not everybody's fortunate enough to have access to 4 workshops, and I get that. I was really, really fortunate with the situation where I got my workshops. I was fortunate to get them. Unfortunate in how things got acquired. For those who weren't aware, when I first started streaming, a friend of mine from the past who asked to remain anonymous contacted me, sent me some cards as a surprise for me to play some old school matches with, sent me 4 workshops and 4 bazaars. Um, and then late last year, um, maybe in the middle of the year last year, I found out that that friend had passed away. His wife contacted me and said that any cards that he let me borrow were mine. And I contacted her back and I said, "Are you sure? There's a lot of value here. I have no problem sending them back." And she said that they were left off very well financially, so no, I don't need to return them. So yes, I was fortunate to get 4 shops and 4 bazaars, but from a friend who has been out of my life for 2 decades. But I think that it would be much better to have that person, sticking around and being with their family still. And I would I'd give those up in a heartbeat, to make sure that he can still be spending time with his family to this day. Um, Sentimental value on my shops and bazaars now is just like through the roof, and they're just cards that I don't think I could ever get rid of. Um, Even if push came to shove and I was like the poorest of poor, I don't think that I would want to get rid of those cards now. All right, so after some mulliganing, Peter starts off with a ruby. And volcanic islands and a lotus. So doing the things, going for a time walk here. All right, so plays 4 cards out of the gate. Speaking of broken things, when it comes to old school Magic, that is a pretty broken start. All right, cracks his lotus. Maybe not. Thinking. All right, does not crack the lotus. I flashed my hand again. I can see a Mox Jet in there. All right, Mox Jet, Tundra, Pearl, Time Walk. All right, so I also play 4 cards on my first turn. Untap. Factory. All right, so I have 4 mana here. Do I have a Suchi? Do I have an Icy? Do I have a book? Do I have something to do? Am I just chilling? Like a villain? I'm playing shop, so that makes me the villain anyway, right? Alright, Divine Offering, targeting the Lotus. That one was for you, Mano, if you're watching. Strip Mine comes out. It's probably maybe not. Might be in the tank about using the Strip Mine to kill my blue source. Yep. If you play old school Magic, colored sources are bad. Don't let your opponent have them. Especially if they're blue. Alright, so he says go. I get a shop. Yeah, Mano's never going to live that one down. For those watching who don't know the joke, Mano had a situation in two different times where he could blow up a Lotus. One time he chose not to. It was the wrong play. The one time he chose not to blow up the Lotus, it was the wrong play. The time he just decided to blow up the Lotus, it was the wrong play. So, all right. So I've got a shop. I don't think it's bad here to force my opponent to activate the relic barrier to tap my creature. He's got a shop too. We're doing shop things. He's got some red and blue in his deck. I've got blue, white, and black. Now he's got an Icy, and I'm having flashbacks to game number 1, where I wasn't able to really do anything. Now, I think he's going to tap the shop, and I think the white source is the right thing to do here. With the Icy, yeah, that's what he does. So, with the Icy, he taps down the shop, and then with the relic barrier, he taps the Pearl. So, yeah, flashbacks to the first game. I draw another shop, I activate my factory, and I swing, hoping he doesn't have a lightning bolt, and he does not. So he has 1 card in hand. I have 3. He's got some good board advantage going on with now 2 factories and 2 ways to tap my things. Not the best situation for me to be in here, but having the extra cards isn't terrible, but we'll see what happens. So he taps down the one of the workshops with the icy, and then taps my pearl on my upkeep. So I draw. I still have access to 5 mana right here, which isn't a bad amount of mana to have access to. I draw another card. Crazy to see so much Relic Barrier. Pretty much no one in my playgroup plays it besides me. I have 8. All right, so there's a library. Okay, so Relic Barrier is really good in, especially when it comes to 4-strip formats, because of the fact that if you can control the colored mana with the strip mines, and then you can tap down their factories with the Relic Barriers, and if you expect there to be a lot of shops, Relic Barrier is pretty good too. So I played Relic Barrier because I only own 2 Icy Manipulators, but it turned out to be a hell of a good decision. So I actually think that I should probably cut like the book and maybe put another Relic Barrier in the deck. Something along those lines. Alright, so some shenanigans are happening where I have an untapped factory. He's tapping my stuff on my upkeep. He's not attacking. I'm not attacking. So he's up to 2 cards. I'm at 4. If we can hold out for 3 more turns, and I can start using that library and start drawing some cards, which wouldn't be a terrible idea. This is one of the problems when we're moving down into the basement, is that you guys can hear the water running when the toilet flushes, or the sink is being used, or the washer's being used. Sorry about that, guys, if you heard that. But all right, he taps my own stuff. I go to 5 cards. I cast a Trike now that I've got my 6 mana. Oh yeah, tapping down your own Winter Orb or Howling Mine in a Parfait style deck is always good. Okay, so he casts a Shatter here. So I shoot him for 3. Bringing him down to 13. If I brought in the Mirror Universe, obviously this is not the most fun thing to be when you have the higher life total, but it doesn't necessarily mean that things are going bad if you have the higher life total and you play a Mirror Universe. So Mirror Universe is a decent magic card. For those who aren't aware, 6 mana artifact. During your upkeep, you can activate it to switch life totals with your opponent. Alright, so I'm at 5 cards here. Still not a lot going on the board. He casts Ancestral and he draws his 3 cards. Seems good for him. So thus far, this game has been better than the previous game. So the previous 2 games, because while he is tapping my stuff on my upkeep, I still have available mana. We've had some counterplay, so things aren't going bad. I have a deck that runs 4 Mirror and a Transmute Artifact in the main deck. Wow. That is a Shivan Dragon. Shivan Dragon is huge. And if you are from the Syracuse or even Western New York area, huge, Tom, huge. You might understand what that means when it comes to the old Billy Fusilla reference. So on my upkeep, he goes to tap my Pearl, and in response, I swords his Shivan Dragon, which means I get that big 5/5 flying monstrosity off the table. I love Shivan Dragon. Melissa Benson did an amazing job with that art, but I don't like it on my opponent's side of the table. Just saying. Alright, so I got to untap with 2 shops untapped on the table because when he cast the Shivan, he could not activate the Icy also. Don't know if I could take advantage of anything here. And I have 5 cards, so we'll have to see. I'm in the tank. Now, one thing that you'll see is pretty common is that when it's the end of my turn, I put my hand down and I put the die on top of my hand to indicate how many cards are in my deck. Or, sorry, how many cards are in my hand. So, if I move the die on top of my hands, that means that I've passed a turn. So, yeah. So, here we go. Okay, so he does not pay to untap his mana vault, so he takes a point at the beginning of his draw step. So, way back when Magic started, there was a during the upkeep, a beginning of the upkeep, and at the end of the upkeep. Well, now Mana Vault triggers to untap at the beginning of the upkeep, and triggers for damage if it's tapped at the beginning of your draw step. So you do still draw your card first because nothing can stop you from that, and then the trigger is going to go on the stack. All right, so he plays a couple of threats here. He goes Trike and Tog, which is not cool for me, not gonna lie. So, we untap. He announces that he's tapping down the jets on the upkeep. He made a small error here and didn't actually tap his relic berry, and I don't know if it ends up doing anything. I draw Lotus. I cast a copy artifact. I'm waiting for him to respond. He responds by shooting me for 3 and sacrificing the Triskelion to the Atog. And that's a good play there, making it so that I don't have access to a Triskelion for 2 mana. And then I use the other blue mana to blue blast the Atog. So, now I don't have a threat on the table. Oh, he sacrifices the Mana Vault in response. Good call there. Good play, so that he can not have to either pay the upkeep or take damage. Especially because I think I copied the Icy here. So that he might have paid 4 to untap it, but I would have just tapped it right back down. Yeah, so him forgetting to actually tap his Relic Barrier to tap my Mox didn't actually affect the game, because he didn't try to tap a second thing down. Now, if I made this an Icy like I think I did, then that means that on his end step I tap his Relic Barrier. That means he just has to spend some mana in order to do stuff on my turn, which isn't a terrible play. And if I made it an Icy, that means that I can contend with threats as well. Like if he has another Atog, I can tap it. If he has something like another Shivan, I can continue to tap that. If I had made it just a Relic Barrier, then I just limit myself. So. Alright, so he's activating the Relic Barrier probably to tap my Icy. Yeah, so I respond by activating the, yeah, it is, this tells me it is in fact an Icy. So activating the Icy to tap his Icy. And then he taps my factory in response. And then he attacks me. So, my life total is getting low. He's playing red. Not cool. No bueno here. There's the Mirror Universe. Alright, so now we're at the point where my life total is actually lower than his. So Mirror Universe is not terrible in this situation if I can untap with it. So I've got an Icy, I've got a second factory now, I've got a Mirror Universe. So things aren't terrible for me at this moment, but things still aren't great because I can't use the mirror until my until my upkeep. So we've got plenty of time. Now, fun fact: when it comes to mana burn, there is no response to mana burn. So if I want a mana burn during my opponent's end step, I tap my lands for mana, and oh, he cast Wheel. All right, I tap my lands for mana, and unless there's a triggered ability like something like City of Brass, he can't, know that I'm going to take mana burn until I've already taken the mana burn. There isn't responding to that to add mana to your mana pool, and you can't tap for mana during your cleanup unless you have priority. Nobody has priority during cleanup unless something triggers to give you priority. If the if it would have survived, then I could have mana burned during his end step to bring me down a little bit lower, so that the switch would have been a little bit more lopsided. But needless to say, the Wheel of Fortune drew him into a shatter. He got rid of my my Mirror Universe, so we don't have to worry about that. So he's still controlling the board here with his two factories, his Relic Barrier, and his his Icy. He just made me draw 7 new cards. I draw a card with the library. Now I'm up to 8, and then I tap something with the Icy during his end step. I tap his Icy. Okay. Alright, untap. I've got 8 cards in hand. Draw for turn. Brings me up to 9 cards. So, need to play 2 in order to use that library. My opponent has 8 mana that he can use for anything. So it's getting close to me dying to fireballs or some bolts and some fireballs, some things like that. So, all right. So main phase, I activate the Icy, tapping down a land. So I tap down a blue source, just in case he has a counter spell. I think is what my logic was here. He does not add mana in response. He is tapped out of... his factories are tapped, so I might as well attack with one of the factories here to get him to take 2. I still have a factory for defense. I play a Trike here. Triskelion, I heard, is pretty decent. It's bigger than anything else on the table. So it gets me down to the 7-card hand, and then I pass. So I have active library, but I have a lower life total than my opponent. So let's see what we can do here. So far, this has been an excellent game. Much counterplay, a lot of back and forth. So why not tap barrier, and why not use barrier to tap factory? Yeah, I don't know why he didn't use the Relic Barrier to tap the factory. It was untapped. And yes, I should have tapped the Relic Barrier instead of tapping his Icy, because it makes him use mana. So that's an excellent question, Salty Condor. Okay, so a lot of mana here, which is scary. So that's a big fireball. That was not something that I wanted to see. So I activate the library in response. In here, I'm hoping for a Blue Blast, because a Blue Blast obviously would be pretty awesome for me in this situation. So he hits me for 8, puts me in bolt range. Does not feel good, not at all, to be in bolt range against a deck that runs Triskelion. because a Triskelion can just take me out. A lightning bolt, another fireball, returning that fireball, something along those lines. Yeah, things are not going well for me right here. So, cast Ancestral, drawing more cards, hoping to draw some answers. Maybe a Divine Offering would be nice here, so I can attack with my Trike, gain some life off my Trike, something along those lines, so that I don't die to another Fireball, or maybe so that I can deal some extra damage to him, something. Looking through my graveyard here. So I have one of two cards in my hand if I'm looking through my graveyard. I have either the Recall or I have a Time Twister. I don't think that playing a Time Twister is the best thing to do right now when my opponent has access to burn spells and I'm at 3. Those two factories could do some work here. I could attack for 8, bringing my opponent down to 7. But then I would be susceptible to his factories actually just killing me. So I can't do that. I could attack for 4 here, get him down to 11. I could attack with just the factories, leave the Triskelion untapped, but then he could tap it with the Relic Barrier. So I've got all kinds of things to decide right here and right now. That Fireball on top of my opponent's graveyard is pretty scary. You know, because people in old school, they play cards like Recall that can get multiple cards back, or Regrowth that can get 1 card back. Time Twister can shuffle your graveyard into your library. So that is definitely not a fun card to see. And it's definitely Fireball has killed a lot of players when it comes to playing old school. Even back in the day, when Magic was newer, Fireball was just one hell of a kill condition, and it does still see play in old school as well. And you know, I mean, he just dealt a whole chunk of damage to me, bringing me down to 3. He's playing to his outs again, so that he can play a Trike for the win. He can Lightning Bolt me. He could draw another Fireball. I don't know how many he's got. He could Recall. He could Twister and possibly get it. He could Twister, Demonic Tutor, and then cast it, or something along those. There's so many things, so many outs that my opponent has. So many ways that he can actually just like straight up win as soon as he untaps. So this is definitely not good for me. No bueno. No bueno at all. And I've been in the tank for a very, very long time trying to figure this out. Those two shops are being pretty detrimental right now because of the fact that they could only be used to cast artifacts. Yeah, 3 mana to cast artifacts is pretty cool, but you have to be able to cast those artifacts, and you have to be able to survive in order to do it. So, I have 11 cards in hand. Wow. Alright, so I tapped the library and the jet for a Demonic Tutor. I think the best thing to go for right here is actually going to be Divine Offering. Yeah, because I drew with the library, I ancestral, I drew for turn, all that fun shenanigan stuff. So, yeah, lots of cards in hands, just apparently not the outs that I was looking for. So, oops, accidentally spit a card out of my deck onto the play area. Picked it up right away. Alright, so I tutor for a card, even though I've got 11 billion cards in my hand. Apparently didn't have anything good, or I didn't have the right cards in my hand. Don't believe I played a land this turn. I play the island. Here you go, old school guard. It gets to see some play again, hoping it doesn't get blown up. Tap both shops for another trike. I'm on defense right now, and I have to be. If he has the out, he has the out. There's nothing I can do about it, really. Yes, I do have Blue Blasts and Mana Drain in the deck. Don't know if they're in my hand, but yeah, still have a bunch of cards. I have to decide what to discard. Yeah, so this was an extended turn, but a lot was going on with the amount of cards that I had, finding the line so that I survive and don't die. Well, this turn anyway. And then using the tutor to get something that can help perpetuate that strategery there. Alright, I declare an attack. He taps the trike. The one, whatever one is not sick. I don't know if it was the right one, but whatever. Regardless, I knew what he meant, so I'm sure that he declared which one it was. I discard a City of Brass and a shop. Yeah, City of Brass is not that great when you're only at 3 life, so. Alright, so he untaps, and he's got 4 cards in his hand, and he has access to a bunch of mana. He's got Relic Barrier. He's got Icy Manipulator. He's got a couple of factories. He's got 2 Icy Manipulators. Yeah, so my defensive play apparently was pretty decent here. He taps my Pearl. I'm going to assume I'm floating white mana. Yeah, this is definitely a great game. This is the best game that I played in the entire Derby. Or he taps my other white source. I probably float some mana here too. Don't know if I float mana here. If I did, then I'm floating 3 and I can always dump it into the factories. I can always use my Icy to tap some things. I assume that I'm going to die right here. That's what was going through my head right here. I assume that I'm dead. I don't think that I can survive much of what's going on. He only needs to punch through for 3. Granted, I've got 3 blockers. I've got an Icy. I've got 2 mana in my pool. Maybe 3 mana in my pool, so I can tap some stuff. But I just think that I'm going to die here. And, I'm thinking that, like, a Triskelion is going to come down and he's just going to win right here, right now. I shoot him for 3. I use some of the mana. I cast Divine Offering on my own Triskelion. I gain 6 going up to 9. puts me out of bolt range, puts me out of range for him to kill me with a trike. Just trying to use all my mana here because I don't want to take mana burn. So I did float 3. So I used 2 of it for that. I tap one of the factories, which is fine. If he uses it to activate the other factory, I'm okay with that because I've got a factory that can block and pump. I don't want to kill it with a trike because I think the trike is still the best way for me to win this game. He's in the tank. It's still his turn. He casts Demonic Tutor here. When he casts Tutor, I just assume that I'm dead. I do. I just think that I'm dead. Not sure what he's tutoring for right now. He's taking some time. Gets a card. Blood Moon. Strong play. Alright, shuts off my factories. Makes it so that I can't attack him back. So I do have my Triskelion still. So that's a thing. Now, thank you, Old School Guard. I have a basic island in my deck. Basic islands can do things. The White Mox can do things. I have outs. I have things that I can do. He is completely and totally tapped out here. So there is a possibility that I can find a line here that could end up winning. All right, so Blue Elemental Blast to take out the Blood Moon. All right, so all my stuff's active again. So I've got some manas. I got some duders. So we can do some stuff. So I'm counting up. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can attack for 8, but that's not enough to kill him. I need to be able to do some other things. So just in the tank here. Play a land. Twister. This is a desperation move. I need to try not to die. Whatever's in my hand isn't good enough to get me through. Like being able to tutor for that. Divine Offering has given me a new lease on life here in this game. So we'll have to see what we can do here. Again, this has been an excellent game. A lot of counterplay, a lot of going back and forth, a lot of things going on. I'm about to have 7 cards in my hand. I can draw a card if I need to with the library. Alright, so I'm at 7 cards. I almost drew an 8th card without actually tapping my library. In the tank with all these extra cards in my hand. I attack for 4. Bring him down to 8. And I pass the turn with 7 cards. So I have a library activation here. I have 1 blue mana untapped. Hopefully having either another Divine Offering or a blue Elemental Blast to stop a Fireball. I'm knocking on death's door here. Not cool. So he's got a full grip. He's got 8 cards now because he drew 7 for the Twister and then another for the turn. Me counting my mana, trying to figure some stuff out. Got to do some maths, of course. At this point, we've been playing for over an hour, and this game alone has been like 40 minutes. This has definitely been good. Like I said, this was my best game of the entire tournament. Regardless of the outcome here, this has just been so much back and forth, so many, so much jockeying for position and doing this and doing that, and just, draw 7 here, draw 7 there. The Divine Offering to gain 6 life to get out of bolt range or trike range or whatnot. It's just having the blue Elemental Blast for when he tapped out for that Blood Moon was pretty ridiculous, not gonna lie. So many things have gone well. All 3 games, lands have been tapped, mana sources have been tapped, people have been choked on mana. This has not been an exception that things have been tapped, but we both drew mana, we both drew spells, we were both able to do some things. So really, really good game of Magic. Even though the first 2 games weren't great games of Magic, I think this last game definitely makes up for it. So he plays a Pearl into a Soul Ring. Strip Mine. No bueno. Strip Mine gets rid of one of my blockers if he wants. He's counting up, which definitely doesn't make me feel good. So he's got enough. Let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He can hit me with a Fireball for 10 right here. He chooses to strip my basic island. That can only mean one thing. To me, that means that there is another Blood Moon coming out. He taps my other blue source. I tap the library to draw a card. I'm assuming he's passing into combat so that I can do something with the mana. Yeah, so I'm going to use the my copy of his Icy Manipulator so they don't take mana burn. Maybe, or maybe not. To tap down one of his factories. So he could punch through for some damage here. I mean, my trike could kill his factory once it's activated, though. So if he activates the factory, he could have used the one factory to activate the other one. And if I activate a factory to go and block, he can just tap it with a relic barrier here. So me not taking damage here would definitely be a good thing for me. He's in the tank, I can understand. Activating the factory and attacking. I animate my factory. He taps it after it's animated. I take 2 damage from his factory, bringing me down to 7. Demonic Tutor with 1 floating. If he has Fireball in his hand, all he has to do is tutor for a time walk, and I lose. If he doesn't have Fireball in his hand, then he can tutor for Fireball. Or he could tutor again for Blood Moon. He has 1 colorless floating because he tapped the Soul Ring and his Badlands. So I think that this tutor is just going to crush me. Two more mana. Blood Moon. Okay, so now I do still have the Pearl, so I can disenchant the Blood Moon and I can win. I'm pretty much tapped out. This has been a heck of a game. He's got now 2 mountains untapped. I have 8 cards in hand. Alright, so I untap. I draw. I'm at 9 cards right now. Okay, so I drew the Sapphire, so I have a blue source. I'm still at 8 cards because I drew up to 9. Gotta assume I don't have a disenchant here. Okay, blue elemental blast on the Blood Moon. All right, so I'm at 7 cards here. Activate the library to draw. I'm in the tank. He has an icy, so he can tap down my trike. He's at 8. Obviously, if I do a trike right here, then I can declare an attack with my Triskelion, the 2 factories. He taps the Triskelion, he takes 4, I play another trike, and then I can shoot him for 6. Play a land for the turn. Alright, I activate both factories and declare an attack. Triskelion gets tapped. I attack for 4. Okay. I'm using the Triskelion to shoot him for 2, bringing him down to 2. And the Triskelion is shooting itself for 1. I need it in the graveyard because the card that I just drew is Recall. Recall for 1 to bring back the Trike. Cast the Trike with the 2 shops and shoot my opponent. He had the Fireball in the hand, and he did not tutor for the Time Walk. And the Time Walk would have won him the game because he would have had me tapped out completely and totally. So that was, again, that was the best game that I played this entire tournament. It was absolutely ridiculous. I was on death's door at 3 life. The Divine Offering was huge. It was nice to be able to gain that life to get to the point where I was out of bolt range or trike range or whatnot. So that was definitely one hell of a game. So I'm glad that I got to show that to you guys, share that with you. So once again, we're going to take a look at my deck. Playing Esper Shops. 4 copies of Mishra's Workshop, 4 Mishra's Factories, 3 Strip Mines, 4 Tundras, 4 Underground Seas, 1 Lotus, a basic Island, a basic Plains, a City of Brass, a Library of Alexandria, 2 copy artifacts, 1 Mana Drain, 1 Recall, 1 Time Twister, 1 Time Walk, 1 Ancestral Recall, 1 Transmute Artifact, 3 Disenchants, 1 Divine Offering, 1 Balance, 1 Demonic Tutor, 1 Abyss, 2 Icy Manipulators, 1 JMD Tome, 1 Relic Barrier, 1 City in a Bottle, 1 Fellwar Stone, all of the Mana Rocks, a Chaos Orb, Tetravis, 4 Trikes, 3 Suchis, and 1 copy of Tanos's Coffin. So that was the deck that I ran. Alright, so you guys have seen 3 of my matches, so I do have 5 more matches that I have recorded. I do not know when I will be able to bring them and share them with you, but if you're watching this live, it is just about 2:45 on Sunday, so we are 15 minutes away from kickoff for the Buffalo Bills game, so we're going to end it here so I can watch my Buffalo Bills take on the Cincinnati Bengals. So appreciate everybody who stopped by today to watch. Thank you for the support as always. I love doing old school. I'm hoping that we can figure something out so I can do some more old school on stream. But with that, thank you very much. I hope to see you next time here on the stream. Thank you for spending your Sunday afternoon with me, and have a great day.